All right. Yay! It's working.
Awesome.
All right. So people should be joining in soon and watching. Okay. So let me just wait for another couple of minutes. Hi, everyone out there. My apologies for our technical difficulties that we've had in getting this Hangout started, but we're finally underway. I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes for any folks to tune in. So just hang tight. This is for the Hangout on Air with Google Student Ambassadors, and we'll be hearing from Natasha Dunn and Taylor Bell on how they're using Google Apps at their campuses. Looks like we're having some more folks tune in. So let's just get started. So hi, everyone. My name is Gordon Pedraza. I work on Google Apps for Education, and I'm actually based in our Mountain View headquarters at the Googleplex. So what I do is I work with colleges and universities that currently use Google Apps for Education, such as Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Docs, spreadsheets, sites, groups, all of that. I work with them to make sure that they're using the products successfully and making the most out of them. But one thing that we don't get to hear as much about is how the students actually use it at these schools. You know, how are students using docs for their project work or for essays? How are they using spreadsheets for any club work? How are they using just even mail for like their own personal stuff? So we have a unique opportunity to hear directly from two college students at NYU, New York University, and Boise State University, who are also happening to be Google Student Ambassadors. And we actually have the manager of that program, the Google Student Ambassadors program here, to explain a little bit more about that. So Miriam, would you mind saying a few words about the Google Student Ambassador program?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. So I work on the same team as Jordan. My name is Miriam Schneider, and in addition to my day job, where I work on the marketing side of Google Apps for Education, so working with schools and universities after they've gone through the deployment phase to actually help them market and promote the products and tools. We also manage the Google Student Ambassador program, as Jordan mentioned, and the ambassadors, of which Taylor and Natasha are great examples, are really key drivers of influencing the adoption of some of these key products across their campuses. So the ambassador program exists globally as an opportunity for students to serve as liaisons between their campus communities and Google. So since we can't physically be present at every single campus, we really rely on the student ambassadors to help relay information about Google products, programs, tools, tips and tricks back to their campus communities, so to their students, to faculty and staff across their campus life. So we are excited to be expanding the program significantly this year, and you'll see us in a lot more regions and a lot more activities. So.
Great, thanks Miriam. So now let's hand it on over to actual students and hear how they're using Google Apps. So first, let's start with Natasha Dunn from NYU. Natasha?
Great, thanks. So I'm Natasha. I'm a senior at NYU, graduating in 30 days. and I study digital communications and media, concentrating in web development. So I will share my screen at this point and show you how I use docs and sites. Okay, so for docs, I mainly use it. I create collections for all my major activities in all my classes. On campus, my main activities involve working with student clubs, so I'm president of the Digital Communications and Media Club and vice president of student council within my school. And so I create a collection for every activity. And then, so here is an example of a class I take in narrative structures, and this, it helps me to stay organized, because my classes, sometimes the documents are on different platforms. So for example, this narrative structures class, all our readings are on Epsilon. So I bring them to Google Docs, and then when I go to class, I automatically have access to all of them, and then I create documents to create notes on the different topics. And then so for example, in web development here, all our readings are uploaded to Blackboard, and then I just use them, I bring them to Google Apps, and that way whenever I go to class, I have all the material that I need. And I've been doing this for a few semesters, and NYU just switched to Google Apps last year. So what I did is I took the courses from the collections that I still wanted, which was these 4 courses, and I shared those collections with my NYU account. So, and this is another example where I took all the presentations the professor gave and I put them into one collection, and then this is a world history class, when I was reviewing for the final exam, I was able to open all the presentations in one window and go over everything. And so there are lots of features that I find practical. I mean, one example is here, if I just click on the eye, I can immediately see which presentation it is. And so I also do that with my activities. So for example, with Student Council, we put our meeting notes into documents, whether we're creating spreadsheets to organize different events. Here you can see the spreadsheet is being shared. And then that also works for presentations. So for example, here's my Collaboration Technologies course. We all worked on this project together. And so that's just been, so we can all edit the presentation at the same time. And for this particular course, we also created a site. And so I will show you that. This was our... And this is one of the functions I really like with sites, is that you can just create a really simple site. This just had our project description on the home page, and then within the site we had a calendar where we posted all the information for when we wanted updates for the project. We posted our presentation that we could all work on and edit at the same time. And we put our research notes. And what was nice about this site is when we were working on it, it was just shared with the 3 team members and the professor. And so at any point, the professor could come check and see how we were doing, and if we needed help, she could just see it right on the site. And another way that I use sites is with Student Council. I created a site for our Student Council where I just... very simple site where I just post announcements, and I put the calendar. And one feature that's always been helpful with the calendar is being able to put details, so students can just come to this site and they have the room number, they have the description of the event, and other than that, I have announcements on the site. And on this site, it's also an example of how I shared it with my personal account, because NYU has not enabled Picasso yet with our apps account, so I just shared, I would upload the photos to my personal account and then share them here on this site. So those are the major ways that I use docs and sites. Jordan, should we pass it to Taylor? Did you want me to answer questions, or?
Yeah, there was one question. They didn't post it on the stream, but someone wanted to ask about docs and sites. So how often would you say do you use docs with like a group, like kind of how when you're all together in one doc at the same time? How often would you say you do that, and when are the times that that's most helpful?
I would say we do that a lot for group presentations. Sometimes we create documents where we're doing shared research, so we'll all edit that document and put our research into one place. But with presentations, that's where I probably use it the most.
Yeah, I bet that can be really helpful if, I'm sure NYU is kind of a big campus, and maybe you all don't have the time to meet up in one place at the same time, but you can still work together on a presentation for class. Cool. I'll pause here for any questions for Natasha right now. Actually, Miriam, if you can answer one question about the general program. We had someone ask, how can I be a part of the Google Student Ambassadors program and bring it to my university?
Yeah, so we would love that. As I mentioned, we are expanding the program, but right now, for the U.S. anyways, it's only open on a referral or nomination basis at this point, just while we continue to start building up the program. If it is something you're interested in, maybe talk to your school administration and see if they're in contact with us already. Chances are likely that maybe there already is an existing student ambassador at your school for this year. But otherwise, we will be opening applications in the next month or so. So I would suggest chatting with your administration and seeing if they are able to get in touch with us and put you down as a referral.
Cool. Thanks, Miriam. The other thing I wanted to mention is one thing I've seen other schools do that are using Google Apps is that they'll create their own kind of Google Guides or Google Experts program, similar to what we do more officially with student ambassadors. But I've seen some other schools, such as I think University of Michigan, they have their own Google Guides, and basically they've just sought out interested students who are really passionate about technology or Google products and just want to help. And it's really easy to get that kind of a group going. You can start up a mailing list, a Google group of your experts, and then kind of leverage them for any events that you're throwing on, or any trainings that they might want to give, or you might just want to work with them more closely on any initiatives or projects that are going on from a technology or learning perspective. So, while we do have this great program that we run at Google, you can also feel free to start one up at your own school too. I've definitely seen others do that.
And a great thing to do there too is you can actually create a Google site to maintain some of those resources and tips and tricks, examples, ideas. We have a lot of other student social media channels, including our student blog, student G+ page, our student Twitter. So if you follow those, there's often a lot of good tips and tricks that actually come directly from students as well. So I would definitely suggest looking into some of those resources if you're not already following them.
Cool. Thanks. And then I think there was also a quick question about, this is kind of more related to the program too, but someone asked about some really cool Gmail messenger bags. So that's something, another example that we only offer through the Student Ambassadors program. But I know that our Google store is publicly available to anyone online. So you could just search for that, and there's plenty of other swag. There's stickers and water bottles and T-shirts that you can purchase on your own, and feel free to use at your own school too.
And those Gmail Messenger bags aren't even available to Google employees. So we have been harassed by other Google employees to get them, but they are exclusive to Google Student Ambassadors across the world. So,
cool. So let's switch on over to Taylor. Taylor, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. My name's Taylor Bell. I go to Boise State University. I just finished a BA in communication, and I'm a freshman in computer science now. So I have a lot of school experience, and I have a lot more school experience to go. But probably the most important thing to me is my Gmail, and I totally live inside it. I'm sure a lot of people do, but I'd like to share one of the perfect recipes for managing classes. So I'm going to switch over to my screen share real fast and get this going. And there we go. Okay, so this is just a little kind of a demo email account that I made. And this might be a little confusing because there's two emails in here, one from my personal account and one from my school account. So they both have my name. So, you know, obviously you won't have my name in your inbox, probably. Anyways, so one of the first things that I do when I have a school project is I start a contact group. And so with the way you get that going is you go over to where it says Gmail, and you go down to contacts. And then right now, since this is a demo email account, I don't have anybody in here. So what I do first is I make a contact group, and you do that by first add a person, I guess. So I'll add my personal email account, and then I'll also add my school email account. And then this more screen will give you options of things to do with your contacts. So when you select the people that you want to add to a group, there's this button here that says Groups. And since I already had created one called Group Project, I'll call this Other Group and create the new group. And so now I have these people added to a group project. So if I go back to my regular email, and if I was to compose a mail, now I can just type in other group. If that went a little fast, I'll just do it again real fast. So you can, when you start typing, it will suggest, if I had a contact that started with OTH, but it's just the group. So that brings in the two addresses that I added to that group. And so that part's really easy, and it's convenient to be able to email everyone in the group at once. But to kind of take this to the next level, I set up filters and labels for the group. So with my everybody in the address bar from the group selected, I right-click and copy. And then you can click on the settings over here, the little cog over there, click Settings, and then go to Filters and create a new filter. And so what this will do is we're going to set up so that every time somebody from that group emails us, it will be given a label. So the first thing that you need to do is put a couple of the curly brackets, and what this does is it's going to tell Gmail that when you're searching, it will accept anything from any of the addresses within the curly brackets. So if you don't put the curly brackets, it's going to look for emails that are from both of those people, the same email, which, you know, isn't going to happen. So with this, that's all you need to do there, and then you click Create Filter with this search. And so then we're going to click Apply the Label, and then choose a new label, and I call it Other Group. I just name it the same thing that I had named the contact group, just for continuity's sake, I suppose. So now I can also apply the filter. It will see that I have emailed from those email addresses before, so I'm going to apply the filter to the conversations I already have. And so now, when I go back to my inbox, these are both labeled with Other Group. And so at a glance, I'll be able to tell, oh, this is from one of my group members. But, you know, we can make this stand out a little bit more if we go back into Settings and then Labels, and then Other Group. Actually, I think it's over here. There we go. So when you go over to the left side, it will expand down, and then you can change the color right there. So now if you have a lot of people have a lot of email in their inbox, and now if with color-coded labels, you're just going to be able to jump right to those addresses and know who's in your group, which is great. And so that's, you know, a pretty awesome way to manage group projects. So the next step, like Natasha was talking about, is sharing docs. And so if I go over to my Docs tab, they have collections here, and there aren't any collections, so we'll make a new one. And again, I'll call this Other Group just so it matches. And then now within Other Group, click this arrow here, and then we'll create just a document real fast depending on my connection, I suppose. Maybe. All right. Well, that didn't. I think you get the idea here. So, anyways, click Share up in this corner. And then when you add people to share this with, again, you can just type in Other Group. And so now this document is shared. And that's, I do this, so I have collections for my class notes like Natasha does, and I don't necessarily want to share everything. So what I just did there shares a single thing, a single doc that's in the collection, but this is where you would share the entire collection. So same idea, but any document that's created will be shareable there. Since I'm here, there we go. All right, so that part's that. And then I think I have time to cover calendar real fast. Again, this is very, very similar. Over here is your under My Calendars. There's a drop-down arrow, Create New Calendar. And once again, we'll call it Other Group. And then under Share with Specific People, this is why it's nice to have your addresses copied in your clipboard, because I don't think that you can do the Other Group from there. But now I have a calendar shared that everyone in the group will be able to see. So that is how, in a nutshell, I cover group projects. And I'm working on a blog that will have all this written down that will be on the Google Student blog, in case I went a little fast. But yeah, so that's that.
You guys, I have to jump off this call. I have another meeting, but I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for joining, and for Natasha and Taylor for sharing your awesome tips and for being such great student ambassadors.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Miriam.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
And yeah, thanks, Taylor. Question about your calendar. So it sounds like you use multiple calendars. Like, what do you kind of use them for?
Well, I a personal calendar for personal things, I guess. But I like to make calendars for each class because sometimes I don't want to have to look and see. If I had just one school calendar, I don't want to have to read every little entry. Just like with the color-coded labels, I just would like to look and see, oh, there's a green line on this day. That means I have a math test, or something like that. But it's really, really nice to be able to just hide my personal calendar if I don't. Sometimes my personal calendar is mostly homework anyways, so
Yeah, totally. And then as far as using calendar for groups, have you had the chance to use calendars for kind of maybe assigning different deadlines or tasks? That's another thing I'm starting to hear more about.
We haven't really done that in any of the groups that I've been in. It seems like it'd be really easy to do. Mostly what I've done is had the calendar for the due dates, and then be really good about emailing the group and saying, okay, this will be your part, and then this will be your part, and then when we're using a shared doc, you can see who added what. So if somebody's not pulling their weight, then you know.
Yep, that's another nice thing about our products. Actually, so this might be directed towards both of you. Someone asked, maybe if there's a way to kind of see what ambassadors are up to or interact with you guys. Obviously, this Hangout is one opportunity that we're offering to do that. And I actually wanted to mention the blog post you're working on again. I think that's another way where folks can see what you guys are up to and get some new ideas and things that they can do back at their own campuses. But I guess I'm just curious to hear other ideas you guys might have and how you might want to share what you're doing with the larger community, maybe at your schools or at people at other schools.
I'm always up for being added on Plus. That's one of the great things about it is there's not so much of a stigma that you have to actually know the person that you're interacting with, and I interact with all types of different people that I don't necessarily even know in real life, but we have similar interests, and so if anybody wants to plus me or circle me, that's great. I'm happy to answer questions and come up with ideas when I can.
And at NYU, we have two Google groups. I have a co-ambassador at NYU, and we have a Google group there where we've posted information about our events. And there's also an ITS group that posts a lot of updates about new features coming out for Google Apps, specifically for our NYU Google Apps. So definitely looking at the Google groups is a good option.
Cool. I guess, speaking of others, it sounds like there's lots of other students out there that would love to be either a future ambassador or just kind of their own kind of campus expert or resource, whether it's around Google Apps or any other kind of technology. What advice or tips would you share to others who are looking to be some kind of ambassador or guide on their campus for how to make the most out of these tools?
One of the things that's been helpful for me is when in all the computer labs we have whiteboards, and if you just a quick take 2 seconds and write down, have a question about how to do this on Gmail or something like that, and put your address down. Also, don't be afraid to reach out to the faculty, because a lot of the times you'll find that if a teacher is able to share a group of docs on a per class basis, or if my professor shared a calendar with all the due dates, that would be the best. But every time I try to lobby for it, it's like, oh, maybe next time. But squeaky wheel getting grease or whatever in that old wives' tale was. or a saying, I suppose.
Definitely, I would say just going to different events. I know if your campus does training sessions, going to those training sessions and your ambassador might be there, and then you can get to know the ambassador, and maybe they have a club on campus that works with putting on different Google events.
Yeah. And then another question on that. For students that aren't out there using Google Apps or any of our tools yet, what would you say to them to kind of get them to try it out or learn more about it? How do you usually approach people who aren't that familiar with our products?
Well, sometimes there's a very funny, look how cool this is, and I can't believe you're not using this, you're not cool. I guess that when I try to show somebody something like that, I helped a girl clean out she had over 1,000 emails in her inbox, and they were all, she's like, oh, it's just junk. I know it's junk, that's why I never opened it. And so I showed her how the filtering works, and that, like, you can kind of tell in someone's eyes when they've just kind of figured something out, and you know that you made, like, it took me 5 seconds to show her, but now that's changed her information consumption, sort of. Her email box is a lot cleaner now. But I guess just, don't treat them like they're 5, unless they are 5, maybe. I don't know. I just love sharing how to do stuff, and so I guess it's kind of hard. It's just something that comes naturally, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think definitely helping one student at a time really works best. I mean, in class, I saw the student was taking notes for class using her email, and so then I just pointed out how you can use Docs to do the same thing, and then you don't have to email your notes to yourself every time. You can just see it in Docs. And so.
Yeah, that one's huge.
Yeah.
That's a total game changer. Like, people don't even realize that all you have to do is a couple clicks, and I don't have to use a USB stick anymore because all my notes are wherever I am. It's the best.
Yeah, and speaking of having stuff wherever you are, another thing we get asked a lot about is mobile access. Can you guys speak to anything around your experience using apps with your phones? I'm sure you guys have found that handy.
This one might be Natasha's department. I still don't have a smartphone.
Oh.
I don't actually use my phone that much for it. One part that I do find it helpful for is with my calendar. It'll send me, it'll warn me when I have a meeting coming up or something due, and that's probably where I use it the most, and also for my email. It's very quick to check email. But then Docs and Sites I still mainly just use on the computer.
Cool.
But I use my Chromebook a lot. That I take to class, and that way I always have access to my documents.
Definitely.
Just looking at the screen to see if there are any comments in. For those of you tuned in, feel free to submit any questions on our announcement on the Google and Education page or my Google Plus page. I'm still looking out for those. Let's see. What about after you graduate from your schools? When you start either at grad school or your internships or jobs. Have you had the chance to use Google Apps in those situations yet, or do you anticipate needing to use those tools in the future?
I definitely, I feel like I've really got my, like I was just showing, so making contact groups on Gmail, that can scale to anything. It definitely would be great at work. It'd be great. I have a family label for my family. But yeah, so a lot of these tools, if you just think of a different way to spin it into what you need it to do, and that's what's so great about it, about all of them. I'll use it for life for sure.
Yes. I mean, I definitely use it. I use my personal account all the time to create documents, and it's actually the main calendar I use is in my personal account. That's one of the things that I found helpful about having my NYU account is that I keep just my school information in that account. And so it helps to keep the information organized, keeping it in the right place, and so then it's easy to find when I need to find something specific.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, just to wrap up, were there any other thoughts you wanted to share, or any other things that you're doing with any other products we didn't get to talk about today? Anything else you want to share?
I've used Google Plus to study math with. I wrote a blog post about that. I had a little math study group because you can watch YouTube videos together, and so we would watch. I made playlists of the videos that were on topics that we needed to cover, and we watched those together. And it's really nice to be able to not have to leave your house or your room in order to study. Also, you can do voice-only chat. So if you're working on something really late, you don't have to see each other's faces. You can just kind of talk. And if a lot of times in group work, you're going to be on your laptop anyways. So just being able to have a voice chat and still work on your stuff, it's great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, particularly, I feel like with clubs, we spend so much time trying to organize when to have a meeting, and then just using something like a Hangout, it's much easier. You can just, everybody just turns on their computer, and you have your meeting right away, and you don't have to go back and forth with 10 emails just trying to figure out a meeting time. So.
Cool. Well, thanks so much to Natasha and Taylor for taking the time to share, how they're using apps and what they're doing on their campuses. Hopefully, for those of you that tuned in, this was helpful to hear just from a student's perspective around how, you can use Google Apps and how you can help with any efforts or initiatives going on at your campuses. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. And hope you have a great Friday and rest of the weekend.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.